With the new patch underway, let's start talking about the brand new Korean builds that are coming straight out of Korea's high elo. There's a lot of innovation going on there all the time, and new stuff that's amazing crops up every single patch. Make sure you smash that like button, destroy the sub button, and let's jump right in. First champion up, let's talk about Bard. If you aren't already too busy collecting chimes, playing music, and doing whatever intergalactic stellar people do, then make sure you grab Guardian, Font of Life, Bone Plating, Revitalize, Zombie Ward, and Relentless Hunter, because these runes are the best performers for Bard right now, and it's helped by the build that he takes. You want to start Relic Shield. A lot of Bard players go something like Spell Thieves because they want to try and harass their lane opponents, but honestly, early on, Bard doesn't really have enough damage to justify that, and usually you want to rely on setting up ganks, as Bard has great CC, especially once he gets slows on his auto attacks from his meeps. Oh, and of course, let's not forget to mention that you could yeehaw your way into your lane with your jungler right behind you through your portals. There's no real reason for you to take a risk poking at your opponents over and over again, when you could just chill, sit back, and wait for the best opportunities to arise. After all, Bard does scale really well. His healing, his CC, his slows, his mobility, and his very impactful ultimate all become insanely valuable as the game goes on. And so while you're trying to scale like this, further empower your healing and scaling with an Athene's, Redemption, Ardent Censer, and a Twin Shadows to help you catch people out in the late game. And of course, after your support item, your first back should always try and go for Moby Boots. It's definitely a shift away from the much more tanky, dead man's rush style of Bard, but the win rates don't lie, and we're looking at win rates of over 60% in Korean Challenger, Grandmaster, and Master. That is not something that you can ignore, just like you shouldn't be ignoring the resources that we have on our website, GameLeap.com. But for now, let's talk about Hecarim. Hecarim's a champion who's been kind of out of favor for quite some time now. He's cropped up now and again, but just about a year ago, he was very powerful, and now we're seeing a revival of an old build of his coming back into play. A lot of the time, Hecarim would take Predator and be an absolute nuisance, ganking lanes repeatedly, and you just couldn't handle his repeat gank power with the insane movement speed that he has. But now, we're seeing Hecarim players take Conqueror, and they're following it up with Triumph, Tenacity, Last Stand, Sudden Impact, and Ravenous Hunter, which very clearly shows that they're going for an all-in burst and then want to sustain with the Conqueror power that they have later on and their W. They're not super committing to this one-shot Predator style of gameplay, and rather they're taking away some of their burst for better sustain damage and sustain overall. And I think we all know exactly what this feels like. Once a Hecarim really gets going, he starts getting extra points into his W, and all of a sudden he's healing for 300 health every single time he uses his Q every other second, and you just cannot kill the man. Yeah, that's back. As for the items, Skirmishing Cinderhulk is going to be your friend, and after that you want to get Tabbies or Merc Treads depending on the enemy team. Then follow that up with a Triforce, Righteous Glory, Spirit Visage, and Sterix. This is aimed at giving you a lot of cooldown reduction, health, and sustain over a long fight. And of course, the Righteous Glory is a little bit of a throwback to those ridiculous Predator engages, as you're still going to have insane movement speed whenever you use that item. Next up, let's talk about a champion who's been absolutely terrorizing top laners over and over again. We all know that playing ranged top laners is basically cheating, and so when we see Calista top, you just can't help but sigh. Right now, Calista players are taking Hail of Blades, Sudden Impact, Ghost Poro, Ravenous Hunter, Legend Alacrity, and Overheal to absolutely dominate the top lane. Their Hail of Blades procs will allow them to destroy anybody in an early trade, and the fact that Callista's damage is so spooky from her rend really prevents any top laner from going in on her. And with the items that these Calista players buy, once she gets rolling, there's basically no stopping her. You want to rush Sanguine Blade on Calista, as you're going to be aiming to 1v1 people as much as you possibly can, and the lifesteal, sustain, and the attack speed buff are seriously important on her. After that, make sure you pick up your Berserker Greaves, and then grab your Blade of the Ruined King, Phantom Dancer, Guardian Angel, and Mortar Reminder as you scale through the game. Remember that your Rend Spears stack infinitely, and if you happen to kill something with your Q while it's in midair that you're rending, it means that the stacks from that minion will transfer over to the next, or champion, or whatever you manage to kill. So you can easily pierce through a minion that you've been auto-attacking 3 or 4 times with your Q, hit the enemy champion, and all of a sudden you just hit them with your Q and like a 6-stack rend or something. And of course, if that's not an option because they're just playing behind the rest of their minions or trying to play really far away, you can just auto attack one minion and start zoning your opponent off of the wave. Because if you kill something with your E, you get a cooldown and partial mana refund. So you can continuously poke at people even if they're trying to stay out of your range, and you can harass them to the point where they will be forced off of every single wave. Before we move off of Calista, I just want to give a very important tip that I never ever see anybody take advantage of, even challenger players. Calista's attack speed is directly gated by the movement speed of her hopping. So when you have more than about 1.6 attack speed, you will attack faster if you do not move in between every auto attack. It just blows my mind that people don't play her to her fullest potential because they don't even understand the most basic thing about her kit, that is her passive. It doesn't matter if you have lethal tempo and like 4.7 attack speed. If you're hopping, you are attacking at about 1.5 attacks a second. So stop moving if you have that much attack speed, if you can afford it.
Before I forget, since everybody's stocked up with enough toilet paper, milk, and bread to last for the next 3,889 days, make sure you go check out our website, GameLeap.com, because we have a literal 50% discount right now. 50% off, and you still get all of our guides, everything from our basics all the way down to our champion-specific guides, and every single thing in between. So make sure you take advantage and sign up right now at the link below. Next champion, moving away from the hopping nightmare that is Calista, let's talk about Pantheon, and this one is a bit weird because we're going to be talking about Pantheon support. Yeah, a lot of Korean players are playing Pantheon support, and I mean, I've messed around with it before, it didn't seem like anything special, but right now, these guys are pushing over 60% win rate, and it's not like it's only 10 games, this is like 40 games, 50 games, which is a lot. And this is only going to grow as the patch goes on, and we see just how strong it is over a large amount of games. The runes might seem a little bit deceiving, as they're still taking Conqueror, Triumph, Alacrity, Coup de Grace, Zombie Ward, and Relentless Hunter. This is pretty standard and mostly what Pantheon players take in other lanes, but obviously the build is different as a support, as is the playstyle. You're going to want to go with Steel Shoulder Guards, then get your Moby Boots, an Umbral Glaive, an Edge of Night, a Guardian Angel, and then wrap it all up with Asterix. The most basic description of how this lane plays out is that pretty much no matter what, you start your W level 1, and then the moment that the enemy walks into lane, whoever is squishier, you press your W on them and walk at them until it goes off, unless they somehow manage to reach their tower, and they will almost always nearly die from that engage. Once you're in this position, and they likely burn their summoner spells, you can do whatever you want in the lane, and you will be able to pressure them over and over, as you are such a huge threat to them, even without your AD carry. If the enemy support doesn't have like a shield and a healing ability, then they're probably not going to be able to save them with just how low of a health they're going to have. Keep in mind that when you do go for that early all-in, you don't want to waste your ignite, as wasting it is the right term, because you almost always will never be able to kill them. Yeah, they're going to burn their summoners, but is it really worth it? In that case, no. Just save it for the next time and ignite them when they're already really low, and then your damage is going to be able to kill them anyways. Once you transition out of the early lane with the inevitable kills that you're going to get by just how much damage you carry, then you'll be able to buy things like Moby Boots to be able to roam really heavily and bring your insane damage and engage to other lanes. No matter what you do, you really can't flash out of a Pantheon W. You're still going to get stunned, even though he's going to be like displaced, you're still going to be set up for whoever else is in the lane to be able to hit you, and you might die no matter what. On top of that, because you're roaming, your AD carry might fall slightly behind, as will you in experience, but that's okay because you don't need that many levels to have a ton of pressure. All you really need is your W and your Q for your damage, and your E will bring you insane survivability no matter what level you are, as you block all incoming damage from a given direction. Next up, let's talk about Silas, and specifically we're looking at Silas jungle. The thing is that Silas has a pretty rough time in his early clear in the early game, but once you get out of there and once you get fighting, Silas jungle just feels broken. Your fighting is absolutely insane, as your healing is off the charts and your damage is excellent. You bring CC, you have amazing sustain, you have good damage. What else could you need? Well, the only answer is really Azania's to make sure that your cooldowns can come up again for a second rotation and further exacerbate the problem here. The issue is getting to that point. So you have options when you're playing Silas jungle. Either you can go for something really cheesy, where like you start your E and then go W after you kill your first camp and go for an invade,
or you can try your best to do a 3-camp clear and get a good gank off, because you really need your jungle item to be able to clear effectively and efficiently. So once you get to that point, Silas jungle will be able to scale incredibly. So because of that, the runes are going to change from normal Silas in lane, even though for a long time people really greeted and took inspiration on him even in the jungle. You're going to go Conqueror, Triumph, Tenacity, Last Stand, Sudden Impact, and Ravenous Hunter. This is going to give you as much damage, as much healing, and as much sustain as you possibly can get. On top of that, the build is going to be your Skirmishing Runic Echoes with Tabbies or Merc Treads depending on the enemy team, and then get a Zanya's Third to be able to buy yourself more time. Follow that up with a Proto Belt, Rabadons, and a Spirit Visage to round it all out with 40% CDR, insane damage, insane survivability, and some of the best utility in the game as you steal the enemy's ultimates. Basically, Silas is overpowered, but with a big asterisk there because of the early game. But as the Koreans have proven here, once you get past that early game, it doesn't matter that it was so poor, because the amount of value that you bring at levels 3 onward after your first clear is just so insanely high that it makes up for anything that could have happened beforehand, aside from like your entire team getting aced at minute 5. Alright, we've got 2 more to go, so let's talk about Kaisa. The Void Lady has taken a back seat, so to speak, for a while now, as she's been one of the weaker AD carries for a couple patches, but recently they buffed her and we're seeing a new build creep up that sees her performing pretty well. Right now, you're going to want to take Hail of Blades, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, Ultimate Hunter, Presence of Mind, and Legend Bloodline. This is going to give you great scaling, as you're going to have the Presence of Mind and Bloodline for lifesteal and mana sustain, even if you have a Muramana, and outside of that, all the other runes really help you in quick short trades to be able to get your Rage Blade quickly stacked and start dealing a ton of damage, especially when you consider that your passive only takes 5 hits as well. While the runes certainly are different, the items also differ too. You still have the core items of Muramana and Rage Blade, so you're going to want to build your Muramana first, get your Berserker Greaves, and then start getting your Rage Blade. However, the key here is that almost every single time you are going to be going Nashor's Tooth third item. There are several reasons for this. The first is that it allows you to upgrade both your E and your W, as you get 80 ability power plus the 25 from Rage Blade to evolve your W. And beyond that, the extra attack speed combined with your Berserker Greaves and everything else that you're going to have throughout your natural things and runes will give you enough to upgrade your E as well. Beyond that, the build also has no cooldown reduction until that point, and cooldown reduction is very nice for Kaisa, and that's exactly why you want this item third every single time. Beyond that though, it really seems like a toss-up. What we see performing the best is getting an Infinity Edge after that and then a Zanya's. However, really, anything could be built there. We've seen Banshee's Veil and Rabadons, we've seen Zanya's and Rabadons, Death's Dance and Rabadons, Phantom Dancer and Infinity Edge. There's a lot of options here, and that sort of flexibility is what makes Kaisa really good right now, as you could build into basically anything the enemy team has to offer after your 3 main core items. And the very last champion that we're going to talk about on this video is Irelia, as Irelia has been in a somewhat rough spot on the lower ends of the spectrum right now. However, with her new build, she has a lot more consistency and sustain. The runes here aren't really changing. You're still going to want to take Conqueror, Triumph, Alacrity, Last Stand, Biscuits, and Time Warp Tonic. This is just the best option for you to sustain, get great damage over time, and scale into the middle of the game. As far as the items go though, this one might be like a huh at the very beginning, but trust me, let's get through it together. So, first item, Blade of the Rune King, and then pick up Tabbies or Merc Treads depending on the enemy team. Then you either go Wit's End or Black Cleaver second, and then the other one third, and after that follow it up with a Guardian Angel and then a Sterix Gauge. This build entirely focuses around shredding high health, tanky targets while still having great damage against champions who lack resistances. Additionally, there are no stops pulled here when you're considering how much sustain you're looking at. Bork is going to apply every single time you Q and give you lifesteal similar to how Ravenous Hydra would work, except for the fact that it's not in an AoE. On top of that, you do have the sustain from Wit's End, as well as the armor shred from Black Cleaver, with movement speed and everything else that you're usually used to from having Triforce other than the Sheen proc. This is 100% a more split push focused build, as you really don't have the amount of tanky stats that you want either through health or shielding through like Sterix or whatever it might be, in the early mid game to be able to pull off the maneuvers that you need to actually have an impact in a team fight. But in a side lane, oh my goodness, in a side lane, are you basically unstoppable. It's very difficult to 2v1 Irelia already, and when you're adding on the attack speed from Blade of the Ruined King on top of the shred that it brings with Wit's End and the healing with Wit's End, as well as her flexibility with the armor shred and magic damage and physical damage that she will bring, you've got a lot to worry about. You can kind of label this as an anti-tank build, but it's definitely more than just that. The fact that it excels against tanks is really just a bonus. But when you think about the fact that you're bringing a similar level of burst while also having higher DPS, and then still maintaining tankiness as you scale into the late game, well, you're not really losing much there in terms of a team fight, and your split push is just going to be stronger. A lot of people right now are losing their minds, stocking up on food, toilet paper, and just about anything else that they could ever need to make sure that they don't have to leave their houses for the next 3,498 days. And since that's happening, right now we're running a discount on our website for 50% off. So if you need extra coaching, extra help, and want the best edge that you could ever possibly get for your games, make sure you go check out our website, GameLeap.com, right now. We have guides on just about anything that you could ever want, and we're always working with our challenger level content creators to bring you guys the best videos and edge that we possibly can. We've got micro guides, champion specific guides, macro guides, lane specific guides, just about anything. And if you happen to notice something that you think is really important that we have missed, make sure you let us know. Like I said, we're always trying to make more videos so that you guys have everything that you could possibly need. And that's exactly why you should take advantage and sign up now so that we can start helping you win your games right away. If you made it this far, thanks for watching the whole video. What do you guys think about the new builds? Some of these really came out of nowhere, and a lot of them are on pretty unpopular champions who will hopefully see more play now. All I know is that I might need to check out Pantheon support again. Anyways, as always, my name is Ace Windstorm, and I will see you all later.